We know where to find some good questions. We just put a post on our Twitter account and we wait. Sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs, but it's worth it. Or sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs that are giving you the middle finger, but sometimes it's worth it. At Nyada Thomas asks, should the Dolphins take DeVonta Smith, number 3 overall in the 2021 draft? Before we ponder that, let's hear from Brian Flores, the coach of the Dolphins, the team that holds that 3rd pick, thanks to the Texans, regarding the size or lack thereof of the Heisman Trophy winner.
So what was the question about his size?
As how much is that a hindrance compared maybe to his production on the field, and how do you do that, dynamic?
If you're a good player, you can nitpick all you want about a guy's size, or good players are good players are good players. Cam, I think we all can see that. This guy's a very good player. He made a lot of plays in college. He made a lot of plays in the big games, biggest games of the year. You can nitpick all day about things on people. He's a very good player, and it's been good getting to know him too. He's a good kid too.
Yeah, look, I'm not troubled about the size, and I'm surprised he declined to be measured or weighed at the Senior Bowl today. He's going to do it at the Alabama Pro Day. I don't know. Do they have some special scale there? Do they have some special measuring stick? Are you going to be heavier? Are you going to be taller? I know how to get heavier. Trust me. The holidays proved that to me yet again. I don't know how to get taller short of flying into space for a few days and letting your spinal column decompress without gravity to pull it together. Other than that, I don't know what he can do, but I'm not troubled by it. Look, I don't care. The guy's spectacular. Deshaun Jackson, still one of the most explosive players in the NFL in his mid-30s. It's speed, it's suddenness, it's agility. If they can't get to you, they can't hit you. So it doesn't matter how small you may be, Charean.
Absolutely, Mike, and they're probably going to have an opportunity to draft him, and it makes sense on so many levels. Heisman Trophy winner, going to sell tickets, which you need to do. He's a former teammate of Tua at Alabama, did great things with Tua there, and just an outstanding player. So it does make sense on many, many levels if they decide they're not going quarterback route, which it sounds like they're not with that 3rd overall pick. And, of course, they have a later pick in the 1st round and can do something with that pick. So it does make sense for the Dolphins to take DeVonta Smith, Mike.
Well, they could send both picks to the Texans for Deshaun Watson. Now, Smith was on NFL Network earlier today, and he said that he's spoken to Tua Tagovailoa about running it back, about getting back together. Now, that assumes that the Dolphins are sold on Tua over the long haul. But Smith, an electric player, but we get into these tired old stereotypes, and it's a CYA process when it comes to scouting players in the draft. You never want to take that chance on a guy who's small, because then if he's a bust, what happens? You get called into the principal's office, and they're like, why did you recommend we take the small guy? It's too easy to say in that setting he failed because he was small. Well, maybe he would have failed if he was 6'4". So that's what it seems to be so much, Charean. It's about scouts covering their butts, and they are afraid to recommend a guy who, if he doesn't work out, it's easier to dot the line back to, well, you were too stupid to recommend a guy that we never should have wanted because he's not big enough.
Usually this conversation is about quarterbacks, Mike, and I do wonder if we would be even having this conversation if he had measured today, because he's big enough, and I don't know that there's any question about whether he's big or not, and I don't know if it would have been a question if he'd actually got there and measured today. The guy can play, and that's the bottom line.
He was spectacular in the first half of the game against Ohio State. He had 3 touchdowns, 200-plus receiving yards, 12 catches, and he left only because of a fluke thing where his fingers got caught up in an opponent, and that had nothing to do with size. That had everything to do with every once in a while, and I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. Your fingers get all jacked up when you run into somebody at full speed. Nick Andrews has a question about Matthew Stafford, and this is a good question on the surface. Well, and I'm not saying it's a bad question deeper than the surface, but it's a fair point to ask. If Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey, and Jamal Adams all got 2 first-round picks in trade over the past couple of years, why do people think that Matthew Stafford will go for less than that? Let me take the first crack at this one, Charean. I think he could go less than that because this is about the two sides are definitely going to separate. So the question becomes, what's the best offer that the Lions will get from a team that Stafford is willing to play for? And it may just not be 2 first-round picks. We don't know how many teams are going to come to the table. There's too many other options out there on the market for teams to gravitate toward. How many teams ultimately are going to say, we're in on this. We're going to show up for the auction for the Matthew Stafford contract. So it has nothing to do with a team saying, well, hey, we'll just keep him. I mean, I think that was the attitude for some of these other trades. No, you got to give us 2 first-round picks or we're just going to keep him. The Lions aren't going to keep him. It's too late for that. They've got to find the best deal that they can make with the team that Stafford will play for, and it comes down to those 2 teams or 3 teams or 4 teams, however many teams, to determine what the price tag is as they compete with each other.
Yeah, Mike, first of all, it takes a team to make that offer, and I just don't see a team making that offer of 2 first-round picks for Matthew Stafford. The other 3 players we're talking about are the best or close to the best players at their positions, and that's why they got what they got. And as you said, based on, hey, we'll just keep them until you give us an offer we can't refuse, and that's what happened. So when you look at Matthew Stafford, Mike, we're all assuming that he's an upgrade, that he's a really good quarterback who was held down by the talent around him at Detroit. Are we certain that's the case? I don't know. This guy's made 1 Pro Bowl, and I know you texted the other day. You were surprised when you looked that up, that he had only made 1. Jared Goff's made 2 Pro Bowls. Everybody makes the Pro Bowl. Matthew Stafford has made 1 Pro Bowl. That came in 2014. The last 3 years, he's 14, 25, and 1. I would have to take a deep dive into this guy, also his injury history, to determine if he, A, can stay on the field, and B, why their record was what it was with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. I do have a lot of questions.
First guy I'd want to talk to, if I was thinking about Matthew Stafford, is Reggie Bush. Because there were 2 different things from Reggie Bush's time with the Lions that stand out to me. One, at a time when the Lions were struggling, Reggie Bush, who brought a Super Bowl ring with him to Detroit, something the Lions haven't even had the chance to play for in their history. Bush suggested that they have a players-only meeting, and Stafford's attitude was, we don't need one of those. Okay, I'll defer to the guy who's got the Super Bowl win, who's been part of a team that knows how to get to the top of the mountain. Secondly, when Bush was done in Detroit, he said that team lacks chemistry. Now, I don't know how much of that is on Stafford. And I mentioned today on PFT Live, it's entirely possible in building the team over the years, they neglected to search for guys who would become leaders because Matthew Stafford, in the Peyton Manning to Eli Manning scale, where Peyton is the sheriff and Eli is the deputy who just wants to go home and watch Seinfeld, where does Matthew Stafford land? I think he's far closer to Eli, so you need others who can lead. But I'd want to know why it was that Reggie Bush thought that and what kind of a leader Reggie Bush thinks Matthew Stafford is. He played with Drew Brees. He played with Matthew Stafford. How do they compare? Because you better have a great leadership arrangement in your coaching staff, Charean, and in your locker room if you want to get the most out of Matthew Stafford, because I don't think you can expect the leadership to come from him. And that's not judgment. That's not criticism. That's just reality.
And he's got to be an upgrade, Mike, over either A, what you have, B, what you can get on the free agent market or in a different trade with some other team, or C, what you can get in the draft. So there are a lot of options for teams to go out and find quarterbacks. So Matthew Stafford's got to be your best option, and I just don't think he's going to be that quote-unquote best option for very many teams.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.